midday exercise. Sometimes I'm running. Today I'm walking. Hope everybody's doing well. Today's topic, 10 things about stucco I bet you didn't know. And just as a heads up, we're right next to the San Diego airport. So there's airplanes that come super close overhead. Check this out, we got one coming right now. Anyways, there's gonna be lots of opportunities to see them. I'll go ahead and point it up. When it comes, here it comes. Anyways. Oh, flip it around. It's gonna come right over those trees. All right, first thing you didn't know about stucco. It's also called plaster, but just call it stucco so you don't get it confused with drywall. A lot of people will call stucco drywall or plaster and get it confused with drywall, but they're completely different. So call stucco, stucco, drywall, drywall. Even though plastering is the trade, make sure you separate that so it doesn't get confused. Also, there's 3 different types of aggregate that stucco comes in, and the aggregate is the size of rock or sand or lime inside the stucco. So we have a 1620, a 2030, and a 3030 smooth mission finish. It's kind of like gauge of wire. The smaller the number, the bigger the aggregate. Third, most people think that when you apply a primer or bonding agent onto the surface, that you're supposed to use full strength stucco, full strength primer, but you don't want to use full strength primer because the surface that you're attaching the stucco to, you want what we call a mechanical bond. So that means when you slap the stucco on there, if you're doing a repair, you want to dilute the primer, because when it's diluted on a molecular level, the new stucco can actually grip onto the old stucco. When it's full strength, you basically seal it. You create basically a barrier to stop it from suctioning on to the old material. Stucco, unlike concrete, has more lime in it. We'll call that number 4. So stucco, sand, lime, separate from concrete. Also, stucco is kind of bad on the hands too, and it's dangerous to breathe it in. So instead of grinding it, we'll call this number 5, you should chisel it out. Chisel the stucco out. And stucco is almost on every building down here in San Diego. And surprisingly, there's not a lot of techs that are able to do it. Stucco is something that is really heavy, and it's actually more expensive than doing like a hardy backer siding because it takes a lot more prep and it's pretty heavy. Ooh, look at that butterfly. Basically landed on us. It's kind of crazy. Anyways, number 6, if you don't protect the floor with some type of plastic, and a lot of times when you're doing stucco, there's going to be concrete on the ground. You got to make sure that you cover the ground with plastic. That's super important. Also, stucco, it doesn't take that much experience to apply, but it is a little bit of chemistry you got to know. Like, you can't add too much water into it and then it's too soupy, and then you add more stucco to it to try to make it a little bit thicker. You don't want to do that. It's kind of like concrete. You lower the strength the more water you add. So make sure you add the correct amount of water straight from the get. And then also when you apply it or when you mix it, you can't mix it for too long. And when you apply it, you have to mix it quickly and apply it quickly. Because if you have to reconstitute it, a little bit's fine. You can wet it down a little bit. But if you mix it for too long and then apply it, it'll just flake off. Next, what is this, number 7? Stucco. When you apply it to, let's call it drywall, because that's how a lot of developers did stucco back in the day. They would put gypsum board on the ceiling or on the walls, and then they put lath, or let's say you're just doing it onto building paper, right? You don't want to do it directly onto wood because the expansion contraction is at different rates, and you're going to cause the stucco to fail. So a lot of times you'll just see plywood, then you'll see a moisture barrier, which is vapor open, water and moisture impermeable. So you have your plywood, your vapor barrier, your lath, but it's okay to grab a hose and to spray it down. And just like if it's gypsum, like the old developers did, it's okay. A lot of people panic if they see you put water onto something like drywall, but just, you know, when you have the hose, how it has the little twisties on it, and one's like jet, another stream, put it to mist. And if you mist down the surface and then you put on the stucco, and it's going to suck on there, especially if it's on the ceiling. Even if there's lath, if you don't wet it down and you have your trowel, your Hawken trowel, and you push it up there, it's just going to fall on your hat, end up looking like this. So make sure that you wet it down. Also, another tip is some stuccos come with a color already in it, like La Habra. It comes in like a pure white. If you wanted to put a pure white stucco and not add color, cool. It's a 1620, they sell it at Home Depot, but they also sell color additives. It's like a chalk dye, so that when you're finished putting the stucco on, you don't need to paint it. And you can sell that as part of the job if you're doing a whole job. But most repairs you're gonna see, they're going to be jobs where it was regular 1620 stucco and it has some type of paint. Half the time, the paint is just some crap Glidden paint, but I'd recommend an acrylic paint because acrylic is flexible and it adheres really well. You can get it at, you know, the big box retailers. And, you know, there's something you have to tell your customer. Stucco will always crack, just like, but unlike stucco, you don't have control joints unless you're doing like a commercial building. You know, every 20 feet, you're going to put some stucco control joints. There will be hairline cracks, and so the customer has to be noted, has to be told that. But it's also important to make sure you put an acrylic top coat. So if you do a patch somewhere, recommend to paint the whole wall with an acrylic paint, because when it cracks, the acrylic paint don't gap. All right, that's super important. So you got the La Habra, you can add the color coding to, or if you want it pure white, then you just use as is. But my favorite stucco, and you can get lost there trying to compare, but use this experience from an installer, that Eisenwald stucco is really the best. And I believe they did partner with Rapid Set. Now the box of stucco used for the patch, it sets the quickest and is the highest PSI and is the most sticky. It's almost like they added an emulsifier to it. But I do prefer, if you do get it by the bag, to do the Rapid Set Eisenwald in the bag. It has a yellow logo and it has a picture of a crown chess piece on there. So skip all the other brands. But unless you're doing a smaller patch, get the Rapid Set box stuff. Again, that stuff sets really fast. A mistake that I learned also is when I'm mixing the stucco for the first time before I put the patch on, especially if it's in the box, is I don't want to use warm water out of the hose. So if the hose has been sitting there in the sun,